Hi, and thanks for joining this edition of AdWords Hangouts on Air. Today we'll be talking about analytics, goal tracking, and e-commerce in AdWords. And I'm joined today by Brad and Mindi, both AdWords strategists, both specializing in analytics. And I'm definitely glad they're here because I don't have enough experience in the subject, and I think they're going to help guide us. So we're going to jump right into things, but before we do, I'll give everyone a chance to settle in and maybe have Brad and Mindi introduce themselves with what we like to call googly facts. So Brad, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So hi everybody, my name is Brad. I work here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We have an office here of about 350 people, and I've been here about 1 year working on the analytics team the entire time. And we each have a googly fact, so I'd say my googly fact is I used to be a broadcaster for the Big Ten Network, which is a regional sports network here in the Midwest, because I'm a huge sports fan and a huge Michigan Wolverines fan. So go Blue. Mindi?
I'm Mindi, and I actually work over in the Mountain View office in California, even though I'm originally a Midwesterner from Chicago. I'm coming up on my 3-year Google anniversary, and I've been a billing specialist and an analytics specialist, so you may have actually seen me on a billing hangout on air before. And my googly fact, a little embarrassing, is the first time that I was published, I was 9 years old. I wrote a poem about walking on your hands. Very exciting stuff.
That's more than most people can say, at least who are published. That's awesome. So we're going to get started. Hope everybody's ready. Brad's going to kick things off with goal tracking.
All right. Thanks, Mohammed. So goal tracking. I think the first thing we have to figure out with goal tracking is why do you want to draw people to your website? What's the ultimate goal? Do you have like a contact us form on your website that you want to draw people to? Do you have like a transaction you want people to complete, or do you simply want people to come to your site and spend some time there? Well, with goal tracking, we can luckily track all of this and understand a little bit more about each consumer who completes a goal on your page. So every time somebody takes one of these actions, say they sign up on that form, we're going to record a conversion inside the Google Analytics interface. The information we can draw from this is pretty substantial. We can know what traffic source they came through. So did they find you on google.com? They find you on another website? They just come to your website directly? We can find out which region of the country they came from. All these different types of things we can find out simply by setting up goal tracking. So it's just a really valuable tool to use inside of analytics. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to share my screen with you and show you how we actually set up these goal trackings. So give me 1 second here while I start this up. Okay, so I think everybody can see my screen now. So, Mohammed, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, looks good. I can see the analytics account.
All right, perfect. So this is my own personal analytics account. And most of the people, when they log into analytics, you'll see a screen that looks like this. So where do we actually set up these goals? We're going to go up here to the top right-hand corner and click on this Admin tab. And now in the new analytics interface, which just got switched over about a week ago, you have these 3 different sections. This one's your account, this one's the property or the website, and this one's the profile, how you filter your specific data. Goals are going to be set up on a profile level, so we can go ahead and look at right here on the right-hand side of the screen, go down, and we find goals. So we click on goals, and it says create a goal. So obviously that's where we're going to click. First thing we're going to do is actually name the goal. So let's take, for example, you have a contact us form on your page. So to fill out this contact us form, you know, they fill out the form, they're taken to a thank you page on your website. So we'll just name it the contact us form. So after that, what type of goal is it going to be? So they're going to be taken to a specific URL on your website. So let's choose destination goal. And now we're just going to hit next step. On this next step, this is where we're going to actually enter in the URL of the page that somebody's taken to. So let's say your website is example.com. Page is /thankyou.html. definitely want to enter in here is the /thankyou.html so we can take out the example.com. Now we have your goal. So anytime somebody comes to the page that's /thankyou.html, they're going to be tracked as a goal conversion. And there's a couple of different things you can do with the goals here. You can add a value. So if you say, maybe 10 people in a week fill out this form, and 2 of them are actually good leads for you, and for every good lead for you, you get $50. So that makes the form roughly around a $10 value for you. So you can enter in $10 there, and then just hit Create Goal. Also,
so wait,
the new feature.
Brad, that was a little bit of a math there. Can you explain how you got to that $10?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 10 forms filled out in 1 week. 2 of them lead to actual conversions. And let's say a conversion for you is worth $50. So that means $100 in 1 week off of these forms filled out. So you have the $100 and you have 10 forms filled out. So we just took the 100, divided it by the 10 forms filled out. So that makes on average $10 per form filled out.
Oh, okay, cool, thanks.
So we got the $10 there. And then one of the new features inside Analytics is this Verify This Goal button here. So if you actually click on this, it'll tell you how many people in the past 7 days on your website made it to this URL. So this is a good way to actually check that you're entering in the exact URL that you want people to go to. And the final step would just be to hit Create This Goal. So it's a relatively simple setup, but you can gain some valuable insight that Mindy's going to show you how to do that in a couple seconds. I just want to show you the 2 other types of goals here that we're going to cover. And these ones are actually pretty simple. The duration goal, if we choose this, hit Next Step here. Let's say you think people spending time on your site is very valuable for you. So typically, I've seen websites have a goal here of about 4 minutes on site. So all you would have to do here is enter 4 here. And now you have a goal of saying somebody has spent 4 minutes on my site, count them as a goal completion. So you can add an optional value if you want to, just like we did in the destination goal. So this one's pretty simple, straightforward, and easy to set up. And lastly, we have the pages per visit. So if you click this checkbox here, click Next Step. Again, pretty simple. Say you want to track or count as a goal completion anybody who's visited 5 pages or more on your site. So you can enter in the 5 here, a value if you want to, and then create this goal. So those are the 3 pretty basic, pretty simple goal setups that we have here, but you can gain some valuable insight by setting up these goals, and I think Mindy is going to show us how to actually view the data for these goals.
Yep, exactly. Thank you for that. That was great. So once you've got all these goals set up, obviously you're going to want to know, where does this data go? Where do you find reporting on it? So the goal information actually shows up in a couple different important places in your account, the main being the goal reports, but also the conversion information will appear in other reports like the visitor report, traffic report, site search reports, events reports, even AdWords reports if you run AdWords. So let me give you a quick demonstration of some of the reports and where you can find them. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, and it looks like you can see this here. So
Yeah,
this is just an example test account where we've already got goals set up and they've been reporting for some time. So what you would want to go ahead and do here on the left-hand side of your screen is find the conversion section. And underneath goals, you're going to see all of these great different goal reports: overview, goal URLs, reverse goal path, funnel visualization, and goal flow. So here I'll just show you the overview. So this gives you a nice basic idea of the goal completions in your account. If you're interested in knowing the goal completion locations, you've got them down here and how many goals are completed in that location. Many people are often interested in the source and medium of their goals. So, what traffic sources are actually driving people to convert. So this is a great place to just get a basic overview and see, okay, well, I'm getting a lot of goal completions from source A or source B or source C. So just a very basic overview report that'll give you a good idea where you might need to drill down, or just some basic overview information. Now what's important to know up here, a lot of people miss this, is that by default it's showing on all goals. If you see this button here, But you can actually toggle this and just run reports on specific goals. So definitely keep this in mind. This is the same, consistent across some of the other reports I'm going to show you, that many people miss this. You can actually drill down and see how am I doing on, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, especially if you have many goals in your account. It's very important. So let's say perhaps you run an AdWords account. You may want to know, well, which of my AdWords campaigns do really well on my goals. So it's actually easy to run other reports, like reports under, traffic sources or reports about visitor types, and see this goal information. You just have to know where to find it. So if you head into like an AdWords report here, just showing my campaigns, and here I've got all my standard metrics that I would expect to see, but you'll also notice that now I've got goal completions. So I can actually see here, well, which one of my campaigns that I'm running in AdWords are driving those goal completions. So that's really important to know. And also, just like I mentioned before, up top here, we can get some more specific information. Go to goal set 1. And now I'm going to see a breakdown of, okay, did these people, were they completing my goal number 1? Are they completing, in this case, my goal number 4, goal number 5? So you can get a more specific breakdown of what's going on. What are these goal completions, and which campaigns are really driving a high percentage of completions, which campaigns are maybe lagging behind. So that's, a lot of the reporting that you're going to do will be specific to your own needs. But this is a great place to start so that you can see, where is this information going to start populating. It's available in several parts of the account. Just make sure you're familiar with these. Many people miss this completely. They don't even know that it's possible for you to toggle between these options. We're going to talk about e-commerce a little bit later, but notice that this is an option here too. E-commerce is just a type of goal, so it's got its own section here, so you can get some information on that. Now, this account, obviously this test account I've got here, is reporting the goals very nicely, and we can run all of these reports. But I do want to give you guys some hints on troubleshooting goals, because one of the most frustrating things that can happen is, you set up a goal and then you're not seeing it report. So let me go ahead. You won't need to see anything on the screen for this, so I'll stop sharing my screen. But yeah, I want to give you a few hints on what could go wrong, that you're trying to set up this goal and you're just not getting any information, or you're not getting information that you think is accurate. Because it's really valuable for your business, you want to make sure it's right. So a couple of common mistakes that happen in the goal setup, let me go through some of those with you. So first of all, the goal URL might be entered incorrectly. So we just saw a great example of how to enter it correctly, but always make sure that, if you really want to track a goal on thanks.html, you don't enter in something like thankyou.html, or you don't enter in, any extra information. It's got to be exact. Analytics is just a computer. It's just going to check whether or not, what you entered happened. So if it's entered incorrectly, you're not going to get any goals completed. So double check that. You may also run into the problem where your specific goal page doesn't have analytics code. If you're a more advanced user, you're probably past this, but many beginning users for analytics don't realize that you should put analytics code on every single page of your site. And if you don't, if you happen to forget to put analytics code on the page that you want to track as a goal, you're not going to get any goal completions recorded. So definitely check on that. And a great way to check this without even having to, double check all your work, those first two things actually. If you take the URL that you called a goal completion, like let's say thanks.html, if you go into your analytics page report and search for that URL, if you don't find anything, that means that analytics doesn't believe that that anything's happening there. You're not getting any page views there. So it's a great like quick tip to go ahead and run that through the page report and see if you get any hits there. Some other common mistakes, some people use the incorrect match type. We're not going to dive too deep into how all the match types work. You can take a look that information up if you'd like. But there are 3 match types available: exact match, head match, and regular expression match. So just make sure that you're using each of the 3 appropriate and you didn't pick the wrong match type. That can cause incorrect reporting in your goals. Another one that's more for advanced users, but you may run into it, is that you may have a filter that's rewriting your URL. So analytics allows you a lot of powerful choices, and one of the choices is that you can actually have your URL reports rewritten. You can have a filter to, add in the entire domain name, or you might even run a filter to take out the .com portion. So if you have any filters that modify the URL, you're going to have to modify your goal when you set it up. For example, if you did have a filter that said, well, instead of reporting thanks.html, just report the URL as thanks, when you go in to create your goal, you're going to have to follow the same rule that you set up in your filter and just put in thanks in the box instead of the .html. So that won't happen as much unless you have a very customized account, but many people do. So keep all of those things in mind. Hopefully, if you ever run into the issue in which goals aren't reporting, hopefully one of those will be what's going on. And if not, that's why we have support options for you. So definitely use them. So those are all just some information for you about, number one, how to report on goals once you've got them set up in your account, and number two, how to troubleshoot them if they're not working quite right. So I want to move into a bit of a new section here on e-commerce, which, like I mentioned, e-commerce is just a type of goal, so it's very similar, but it's a bit more specific of a goal. So I'm going to go over just what it is and why you're going to want to use it. So e-commerce, like I said, it's a type of goal, and it's a type of goal that's tracking actual purchases on an e-commerce site. So if you want to find out what visitors buy, what quantity of items that they buy, revenue, tax, all of that great sales information, then you're going to want to track using e-commerce. So the why you would want to use it is fairly obvious. Most businesses, their sales and their bottom line are the most important thing for them. And when you have a business online, that's no different. So it's very important for you to be able to track this, and so that's a great reason why you would want to have this set up in your analytics account. It's also a totally free type of tracking, so it's just a little bit of extra code and a little checkbox on your site. So if you have an e-commerce site, it doesn't seem like there's many reasons why you wouldn't want to use it and get that great information. It can also help you understand a little bit more about the sales that you're getting, because you can segment it by all of the great data that analytics gives you, like the type of visitor, maybe geographically you have different sales numbers in different regions. You could find out more about that in analytics. Or all of those great campaigns you might run in AdWords. You could find out which ones are driving certain product sales or certain revenue numbers. Or any of the sources that you get traffic from. You might want to know a breakdown of how do those sources compare to each other, not just when it comes to things like visits or time on site, but actual sales. So definitely all of these are great reasons why you would want to use e-commerce. So the actual setup is a little bit more difficult, not the easiest thing in the world. It's a two-step part. The first step is super simple, and I'm going to walk you through it. It's just checking a box in your account that says, yes, I want to use e-commerce. But the second step does require some code, so you will want to have a qualified developer. If you already have an e-commerce website, if someone built an actual checkout process for you, then you probably have a qualified developer on hand. But if you're using any third-party system, you may have to reach out to get some information from them on, do they have developers available to you so that you can do some of this code modification. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. There we go. Can you guys see that? Awesome. Looks like it. Okay. So here we are in our test account. And if you click on the admin section of your account, this is where we get to. We saw this a little earlier too. So when you want to head on in and say, yes, I want to track e-commerce, you'll want to go to the profile settings section right here. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to see this section that says e-commerce tracking. You'll notice my button's a little bit grayed out here, but you would have the option to enable or disable this. So this right now says yes, an e-commerce site, so this account is already ready to go. But for you, if it said no, you would just click on this button and you'll toggle and say yes. Like I said, step one, easy peasy, no problem. Now step two gets a little bit more involved. So on the actual page, the thank you page, it says, hey, thanks for your purchase, we'll be shipping your item soon or something like that. We often call that the confirmation page. You're going to be modifying the standard analytics code and so that you can actually send your analytics account all that great data about what was purchased, how many of them were purchased, what was the total price, shipping, all of that. Analytics is awesome, but it's not magic. It's not going to know what was purchased unless you tell it. So that's why this code modification is required. So since this is going to be a little different for every account, I'm just going to show you an example. So here is our Google Developers Guide. So if you've ever been on the Google Developers Guide, developers.google.com, and you can even get to the /analytics specific section here, and you'll find this e-commerce tracking - web tracking. So this is how to do e-commerce tracking for asynchronous tracking code, which is what most people are using these days. So if you scroll down to the section that says Complete Example, this is going to be a great resource to pass to your qualified developer so that he or she can understand what are the modifications required here. So let me give you a little bit of a breakdown. This here, these first few lines, this should look very familiar. This is your standard analytics code. And in fact, so is the bottom here. This is all standard code. So what we're actually doing is we've got these 3 new lines being shoved in the middle, and these 3 areas are the sections that are going to be sending analytics the data. First, add trans includes all the information about the transaction. Add item includes information about all the items purchased. And then track trans is actually going to send that information to the analytics servers. So the great part about this is that, pretty simple, just 3 lines of code. The difficult part is that every single website is different. So for one website, the actual variable that you use for a transaction ID might be different. So that's why your developer has to fill this information in with the variables that your website uses to collect this data. Tax, shipping, all of that great information. So when you're ready to do e-commerce, get this example out, pass it on to your developer, and he or she should be able to take it from there. But yeah, that's the piece that makes it a little bit harder for many accounts who aren't that familiar with code. It does involve some code modifications. So let me go ahead here and stop the screen share. So thank you guys for listening to that. That was just an overview of what is e-commerce and how do you actually set it up. So once you've actually got that, then you're going to want to know a little bit more about reporting and what to do with that information. So Brad, if you want to go through that, I'm sure they would love to hear.
All right, thanks, Mindi. So you got all this e-commerce, you got all this code on your page. You've done the hard part. Now what do you do with it? Where do you view the results? What you're looking for? So like Mindi said, e-commerce is it's a goal. It's just a big goal. It's the Roger Federer of goals, but it's still a goal. That's a terrible reference. So I'm sorry that I made it. But so we're going to look into the analytics account, and we're going to look again under that conversions column. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you one more time. All right. Can we see this, Mohammed?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. So here we go. Here's our demo analytics account. And this one is set up to track transactions here for a store. So we can see in the analytics account, we're again on this reporting tab. And on the left-hand side, we're going to go to conversions. We're going to go to e-commerce, and we're going to start on this overview portion of the screen. So if we scroll up here, we can see total numbers for everything. So if we look at this bar graph, it looks like our tracking dropped off there. Well, we're going to have somebody troubleshoot that. But just looking at everything else here, we can see total transactions. We've had around 13,000 total transactions with a good amount of revenue attached to that. This is all great information here, but we can go a little bit deeper. So we can see exactly down here which products have been performing pretty well for us. So that YouTube mousepad has been selling pretty good. We've gotten about 6,600 of those sold. Again, these are all variables that you're going to specify when you're setting up the analytics tracking code, as Mindi walked you through earlier. And another thing that's really nice about this is you can see the source/medium that they came in through. So a lot of this traffic is coming from Google Organic. And then we have other websites in here, referrals from YouTube.com, Google Mail. So all of these are traffic sources that led to a conversion. So we can see, we're doing really well on Google Organic, but maybe we could be doing better on Google CPC, something like that. So this overview, this conversions portion, gives us a great overview of the data. But if we want to see it for a specific segment of the data, we can view this e-commerce in the different parts of analytics. So let's take, for instance, let's go, I'm sure a lot of people are doing advertising with AdWords. And we want to know what our return on investment is for AdWords. So we're going to go to traffic sources on the left-hand side. We're going to go to advertising, then AdWords, and then we can go to campaigns. So here's our normal campaign view. It gives us all the campaigns that we have running. It gives us great information about, again, the goal completions. And then here now we have revenue. And so revenue is also going to be our transactions, our e-commerce. So we can see which ones brought in a lot of revenue, which campaigns did. But then also we can go even further into depth here by going up here to this Explorer tab and choosing e-commerce. So if we click on e-commerce, we're going to get this revenue column, but now we also get transactions, average value, the conversion rate for each campaign, and the per visit value. So we have a lot of information here that we can use to make decisions about our AdWords account based on this analytics data. You know, which campaign is doing the best? Should we put more money into this one? Should we try to prop up one that's not doing so well? So there's a lot of great information here that's going to help us make decisions just about our marketing campaigns. And again, you can view this data at a keyword level, so you can get really in depth with all this information that we have here. So which keywords are doing well, which ones not so much. It looks like our remarketing campaign is just doing well, so that's always good. So there's all these different reports inside analytics where you can view all this data about e-commerce and just drill down and see, you know, maybe what area of the country, which campaign, which traffic source is doing the best for you, and maybe allocate some more resources to that portion of your advertising campaign. So that's where we can see the results. But now, as we did with goal setup, we're going to take a look at and see, what if e-commerce isn't working properly? What can we do in that case? What type of troubleshooting can we do? And this happens a lot. Advertisers will call in, and sometimes they won't be seeing anything in their e-commerce reports. Maybe they put the tracking code on the page, but nothing's showing up. So what are some common reasons for just having nothing show up or having skewed data inside your e-commerce reports? So I think the first one, and Mindi kind of went over this in her first section that she did, is not having that e-commerce button checked in your settings. So people will put the code on the page, they'll do all the hard work, but they won't actually turn it on and say, yes, I have an e-commerce site. So if you ever see no data pouring into your account, the first thing to check is those settings. Make sure those settings are correct. The next thing is people see some data pour into their account, but the numbers will look way off, they'll look skewed, and they won't look correct. This is because in the actual e-commerce code, you have to have placeholders for some variables that you don't include. So if we remember on the e-commerce code in the Developers Help Center, there were a couple different variables you had to define. Each of those variables should be in there, but you don't have to include a script for each of those variables. But if you don't include a script, you still have to have a placeholder, so quotes, in those variables, just to make sure we can skip over those. So everything should be there, just have placeholders to make sure we know to skip over those. Another common problem with analytics and e-commerce reporting is sometimes we'll report double conversions. So some people will see exactly the same, exactly double the number that they should have and that they see on their back end. This could happen because you have two codes on your actual transaction page. So people will have their regular analytics tracking code, but then they'll put another code with the e-commerce code. As we saw, as Mindi showed us, you only have to have one tracking code on that page. It's going to be your analytics code with the e-commerce code sandwiched in between. So just one code. And that happens more often than you think. Another thing here is make sure your code is uniform across all of your pages. So on your website, if you go through and you make a transaction, and let's say you've made adjustment to the code on one page, make sure you make that adjustment on all pages. So if you have a set domain name line of code on one page, make sure you do that on the checkout page as well. So just make sure everything is uniform and it all looks the same. The very last portion of troubleshooting is the source medium. So a lot of people will see the source medium come through as direct/none. And this happens a lot when you have your website and then you're pointing people to another website where they actually complete the transaction. So I think this can get a little in depth, but I think I'll just give you a quick overview of it, and we always have these support lines here if you need additional help. So let me go ahead and once again share my screen with you, and I can go over this one real quickly. Okay, so for doing this, you actually have to enable your cross-domain tracking. So to do that, you go inside your Analytics account to the Admin tab, and then to Tracking Info.
Hey Brad, can you blow up that screen there? Because I'm seeing everything, but maybe just show me that one slide if you can do like a prezo.
Yeah, let me get there.
I'm glad you guys added these troubleshooting pieces to the end of this, because I had a bunch of questions and a bunch of people are posting questions about this, and I think a lot of this got answered. If anyone's unaware, you can post questions on the G+ page or on the YouTube page, and we'll try to get to them if they're not already answered. Go ahead, Brad, sorry.
Okay, yeah, so here is the inside of the Tracking Info tab, which you can see right here. And what you want to do is turn on this.
You're not sharing the screen anymore, sorry.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Okay, and is it still sharing now, Mohammed?
Yeah, it's sharing now. There we go. Perfect.
Okay. So here we are inside the Tracking Info tab. And what we want to turn on is this multiple top-level domains. And you'll see right now it says of Brad. And so I named my website brad.com. And so what we have to do here is this toggle, which this purple arrow is pointing to, we have to make sure that this is on. And what this toggle does is it adds 2 lines of code to your actual analytics tracking code. And these 2 lines of code can be found down here. They're the set domain name line of code and the set allow linker line of code. And so if you can see this slide, they're the ones in red. And so let's say the visitor is on your site. So if you have the tracking code, it should be, the set domain name should be yoursite.com. Simple enough. Then when they actually go to the e-commerce portion of the website, so let's say you're using Shopify. So if they go there, or you're using BigCommerce, as this example uses. So you should switch that set domain name line of code to bigcommerce.com. That'll ensure we transition the cookies from your website to BigCommerce. And then lastly, you just have to make sure you have these crosslinks set up. So inside your HTML code, initially it's going to look like this at the top, but you're going to want to change it to what you see below with the differences in bold there. So it's actually a pretty simple setup. You can find most of this information inside the Analytics Help Center, and all we're doing here is passing the cookie information from your website to BigCommerce back to the analytics servers. And again, just the reason why we do this is if you see a lot of traffic from direct/none or a lot of self-referrals from your own website.
Awesome.
So that is troubleshooting for e-commerce. I think, Mohammed, do you want to take us home?
Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps things up. I'm glad we kind of went over some of the basics. We went over some advanced stuff. We went over some troubleshooting. So I hope there was a little bit for everybody. I don't see any new questions coming in. I think everything was pretty much answered. If you'd like to re-watch this video, because I know it was pretty dense, and there is a lot of information here, you can find it on the YouTube, the Google Ads YouTube page. It will be posted there shortly. You can also call in to talk to someone like Brad, or maybe even Brad or Mindi, on our support lines. And this is the 3rd in the series. There's a 4th piece to this series on analytics. It is focusing just on troubleshooting and data discrepancies. So if you thought that troubleshooting part that they each touched on e-commerce and goals was interesting, there's a lot more of that coming. so check that out. Thanks again, guys. You guys were awesome. Again, thank you all for joining us, and I hope you got something great out of this. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.